Hello my fellow Go Renegade, and welcome back to a brand new video of Ghoulish Talks. Now, Ghoulish Talks is actually a revamp or a remaster of one of my older series known as Let's Talk. Normally I used this series for giving channel updates and also talking about my plans of the channel at the end of every year. Now, I'm actually recording this video the day before New Year's Eve is because I'm going to be off celebrating with my family, so this is the only video that's going to be posted this week. But don't worry guys, I'm going to be back next week, and we're going to dive into a brand new analog horror series as per usual here on the Dr. Ghoulish Media YouTube channel. Now, this video specifically is a video I've been wanting to release for a very long time, and it's going to be divulging my housing situation from 2022 all the way into 2024. I'm going to try to keep it short and concise, but there might be a chance that I may, fumble over some words, but I can edit that out in the end. Let's just go and dive into some quick channel updates just shortly before we get into the storytime portion of this video. Okay, first thing on the docket, thumbnail remasters. Since I've been doing YouTube for 3 whole years now, I have a lot of thumbnails. I have made a lot of videos. I think I've made over like 100 plus videos on my channel during the course of 3 years. There was a lot more, but I deleted a bunch, like live streams and stuff, because I don't stream that often. So I'm currently in the works of remastering all my thumbnails and keeping them up with the current quality that I make thumbnails as of 2024. So that's happening in the background. The Dr. Ghoulish Media logo, that is getting a new update. I've been working on my digital artwork a lot more. I've actually been slowly getting back into my artwork. I haven't done some art in a very long time, but I've been slowly getting back into it and making my characters. I've kind of been refining my style and refining the way that I do my artwork digitally now. And I'm making my characters look a lot better than they did before on the logo. So I'm updating my characters, putting them back onto the new logo, and that's going to be updated as well. Final update, and this is the most important one. Back in my 3-year anniversary video of Ghoulish Talks, I talked about my story project that I've been mentioning for 2 to 3 years since I've been doing the channel, Primordium the Anthology. Now, in my 3rd year anniversary video, I mentioned that a trailer for Primordium would be coming out a couple of weeks after I released that video. Well, unfortunately, due to certain things in my personal life, I've been feeling a little bit demotivated and honestly a little lazy, and I just haven't had time to work on that trailer. But I just want to kind of go out and say right now, kind of go on the record a little bit, I plan to have the trailer out by the end of January. I really want you guys to see my story project. I really want you guys to see the work that I've been putting towards it and all that stuff, and I feel like I've been making you guys wait. Like, I keep mentioning this project over and over again, and I feel like I haven't produced anything. So, Primordium trailer, planned to be out by the end of January at the latest. Alright, now on to the story time portion of this video. So, let's talk about my housing situation. So, start at the beginning of the story, for most all my life, my parents and I have rented houses. We've always rented. We have never 100% officially owned a house. Now, I guess you can say, personally speaking, from my perspective, I don't really have an opinion between owning and renting. I mean, I think it'd be cool to own, but, there's benefits to renting, there's benefits to owning, and there's, negatives to both. So anyway, in the year of 2022, I became a senior. I graduated high school, got my diploma, and things were going well. We had lived in the same house for 7 years under landlords. Our landlords, for the sake of the story time, we're just going to call them Timothy and Shelley. So anyway, Timothy and Shelley, they were getting a bit on the older side. I would say like late 50s, maybe going into early 60s. I'm not the best with elder ages, I guess you could say. So anyway, they were getting a bit on the older side, and they simply wanted to sell the house. For the sake of the video, this guy and his business partner, for the sake of the story time, we're going to call him Terrence and BP. I'm calling the other dude BP, short for business partner, simply because the fact I can't remember his name. The only thing I remember about him is that he was a short dude. Like, not necessarily like short as in like little person short, but like, I would say shorter than the average male. If that makes any sense. So anyway, Terrence and BP ended up approaching our landlords, Timothy and Shelley, and made a proposition to them to sell the house. Timothy and Shelley went through on this proposition, sold the house, and signed over the legal documents over to Terrence and BP. So anyway, Terrence and Shelley came... Sorry, not Terrence and Shelley. My bad. Terrence and BP came over a couple of weeks after finalizing their deal with Timothy and Shelley, and they came over to our house, introduced themselves, asked us how long we've been living in the house, tenant record, all that stuff, like if we were being good tenants, bad tenants, what we do, job-wise, all that kind of stuff. And they presented themselves as very acceptable, very nice, very easygoing dudes, and at least that's how they presented themselves. Now, this is where the story starts to take smidgen of a turn, and not in the very best way, at least not from my own perspective. I can honestly say when it comes to these two people, I do still harbor a little bit of anger and a smidge of resentment. Just a little, just because of how we were roped, essentially, in this situation. So anyway, after talking with Terrence and BP, Terrence stated to my dad that he'd be sending over our new legal document, our new lease, essentially, which is the same lease that we do nowadays with the place that we're currently at, just to kind of catch everybody up to speed. So anyway, around this time, it was near 4th of July weekend, and in my state, when it comes to business and holidays, normally business isn't conducted on holidays, or something to that effect. Now, that's not exactly 100% how it's stated. So anyway, it was 4th of July weekend, and my family and I were just hanging out, celebrating, and just simply having a good time. So Terrence sent over the new lease to my dad's email, which was in the form of a PDF. Now, here's where my dad comes into the equation. My dad is a part of the older generation. My dad is a Gen X, and I come from the early beginning part of Gen Z. So me and him have two different perspectives when it comes to technology and all that stuff. Where my dad fits into the picture is that he's not the best with using technology. And when Terrence sent over the new lease, my dad didn't know it was going to be in form of a PDF. And my dad did not know what a PDF was. He didn't know it was like a digital DocuSign, essentially. He didn't know how that worked because he's never done one before. So it was completely oblivious to him, this new form of, signing papers and stuff like that. So I had to explain to him what a PDF was. So we got the PDF, and my dad and mom, they just kind of assumed because it was 4th of July weekend that it was, we had time to sign it. So anyway, 4th of July rolls around. We're celebrating, having fun. It was a good day. Went out, we ate dinner, watched the fireworks at a park that's in my hometown. It's the same park we go to every single year, and they always shoot off the huge fireworks, the big ones, The whole town comes in and puts in money, and we have a huge celebration, stuff like that. Really fun. And then, all of a sudden that night, after we get home, my dad receives an email from Terrence and BP. And judging by this email, Terrence and BP, they were not happy. They were not happy at all. Their whole demeanor had changed. And this email pretty much said, you didn't sign the lease. You have 30 days. You're evicted. Get out. And just like that, we had an eviction notice. Yeah, pretty scary thing, because that was the first time that has ever happened. In all the times I lived, out of all the years I've lived with my parents, that has never happened once. We never even gotten a warning. Nothing bad had happened. Nothing like that notice, and that was the scariest thing ever. That's the scariest thing to anyone renting. I can honestly say that. I'm not joking. And my eyes are a little dilated right now for a reason. And this sent my dad into a state of panic, because he was going off the thought that everyone in our state usually goes off. I was like, well, it's holiday weekend. Business isn't usually conducted on holiday weekends, stuff like that. And so it was kind of confusing. And so the next day, my dad ended up trying to call Terrence and BP just to kind of explain the situation, be like, hey, look, we thought we had time to sign it. And Terrence and his business partner still stood his ground. And so pretty much for the next month and a half, me and my parents, we scrambled, putting stuff in boxes, throwing everything in boxes, blowing up into a truck and shoving it into a storage unit. And we had until 7 o'clock in the morning at the very end of the month to be out. We were done 20 minutes to midnight. Actually, it was 10 minutes. 10 minutes to midnight. It was 10 minutes before midnight on the final day that we got done. And so then after we got done and finished putting the rest of the stuff in the truck and sending it to the storage unit, unfortunately, we sat in a hotel. We sat in a hotel for, I would say, like a good, I think it was a good month or two. We stayed in a hotel. And then eventually, after that 2 or 3 months passed by of us living in a hotel, trying to find a house in our hometown, nothing was open. Everything was closed. Every rental, every apartment building, everything was taken up. And it just sucked. 100%. Like, I'm not gonna joke about it. And so after the money ran out and we couldn't afford the hotel anymore, we had to fall back. And our last option was to go live with my grandmother. Or my grandma, sorry. I don't know why I said grandmother. I never call her grandmother. I just call her grandma. So we had to go live with my grandma, and we lived up there with her for about 6 months or so. But anyway, whilst I was up with my grandma, I was very busy with the YouTube channel. I had to do something to get my mind off of everything. And so I dived heavily into the channel. That was around the same time I released my Iris retrospective and my Theft King vs. Kane Carter retrospective. So I released 2 of my big retrospective videos in a period of 6 months while living at my grandma's. So later this place opened up, and we moved back down here, and here we are now. And that concludes the story time. So yeah, that is pretty much the whole thing that happened with me between 2022 into 2024, but I hope 2025 is a good year. I really hope it's a good year. So anyway, that concludes the housing situation story. It was, yeah. The only other thing I can say about the situation is my dad kind of blames himself for, not knowing how to work a PDF, and he thinks it was his fault that we lost our house. But I don't believe it was my dad's fault 100%. My personal opinion, I don't believe it was his fault 100%. I believe that corporation dude, that dude owned the housing corporation, that Terrence dude, I'm just going to clarify, his real name isn't Terrence. I'm just making it up for the story. But I believe it was his fault, Like, I don't think he gave us enough time and stuff like that. And I believe he was just unbudging just to be kind of cruel. Anyway, guys, that concludes the story time video. Hope you guys enjoy your New Year's Eve. I'll say this once again just to refresh everybody. This is going to be the only video that I post for this week. I will be back next week, though, for sure. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications when I upload new videos, and make sure to follow my social media links down in the description below to join the Ghoul Renegade. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!